Okay, so hopefully you remember all through elementary, junior high, you talked about metric measurements. Sometimes that's abbreviated to SI, System International. It's French, but it's Canada's official measurement system. When I was little, it wasn't, but then Canada decided to switch over to be like a lot of European countries. Okay, but the US still uses imperial measurement. It's a decimal system based on powers of 10, which does make it easier to deal with than imperial. Here in Canada, we still have things that are measured in imperial. So if you go to the grocery store, you'll see probably both things. You'll see price per kilogram and price per pound on the same sticker, okay? Or you can find it in smaller print if you need to. If you buy gasoline, that's by the liter. Driving or speed limits are by metric as opposed to the United States. If you talk about your height, you might, if you use feet and inches, then that's imperial. If you're using metric, that's great. I still think of my height in imperial. Your mass, how much you weigh, you might think of that in kilograms, you might think of it in pounds, depends. Go to the doctor, these days they're usually, when they measure you, are measuring your height in metric and mass in metric as well, whereas a lot of us still go by pounds. Okay. In any case, we're looking at linear measurements for this this unit. Who can tell me how many millimeters in a centimeter? Hands up. Vincent there at the back. 10. Okay. How many centimeters in a meter? So 100. How many meters in a kilometer? 1,000. Okay. And 1 meter is how much of a kilometer? Yep. Good. Or you could say 1/1000th. You like to deal with fractions. Okay. So what other metric measurements do you know other than centimeters, meters, and kilometers? And we're dealing with just length measurements. Decimeters. Decimeters, just a sec. Okay, decimeters. Okay, how much of a meter or how many centimeters, I don't care what, some conversion for decimeters to have a relevance of it. Right, yeah. So that's equal to 10 centimeters equals 0.1 meters. So basically in a chart, if you had a chart and this was your meters, then you'd have your decimeters, and then you'd have your centimeters, and then your millimeters. Okay, then there's nano. We don't use those that much. And I actually can't remember. Just a sec. You're the one that said nanometers. I don't know. I'll have to look up. Okay, micro is the next one I know of, so let's do that. Okay, so that's 1/1000th of a millimeter, right? Yeah. Yep. Okay, and then there's things like decameter. That's bigger than a meter. Hectometer is bigger than a decameter, and then kilometer or kilometer. Okay, there's lots. Yep, yep. We're just going to do a couple. You can look up, there's a few more listed, right? Okay, so convert the following measurements: 100 centimeters to meters. So we just talked about that here. There are 100 centimeters in a meter. So you can take 1200 centimeters. If you want to show it as unit analysis, then you would say, okay, that's multiplied by 1 meter over 100 centimeters, right? Because 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. And then using your unit analysis, you divide the centimeters out. And so you would get 1200 divided by 100 is 12 meters. Okay? Or you might just go 1200 divided by 100 and know that it's equal to 12 meters. I'm not going to look for the unit analysis part, but at the end, I need to see the correct units and obviously the correct value. So if that makes more sense to you to show it as multiplying by a fraction, then go for it. In science, that's what you sometimes have to do. You call it unit analysis to make sure you end up dividing out the correct units. Okay, next one, 0.35 kilometers, and we want to go to meters, so we're going to multiply by 1 meter, and 1 meter is 1,000 kilometers. Okay. Oh, what am I doing? It's not. Sorry. That was wrong. I want to get it into meters. There's 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. I had the units in the right place, but the wrong conversion. Okay, remember a meter is this long, and a kilometer is very long. So there's 1,000 meters in the kilometer. So now you're really just multiplying. So that moves the decimal 3 to the right. Okay. So 350 meters. Paperclip is 34 millimeters long. How many centimeters is that? Well, there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter. So again, you can show it using your unit analysis. Just a sec. Or you can just go 33 divided by 10. Oh, 34, yeah. Okay, when you look at a map or a scale drawing in a textbook, either way, guys, the first number is the map or the diagram or the book, whatever it's in. That's the measurement on the diagram, the map. So this is, I call it the map to real life, or the original. Okay, so the first number is always on the map. So if it is a map, we are drawing a smaller picture of something in real life. So the first number is small. If you are in your biology textbook looking at a diagram of a cell, then that picture is much bigger than it is in real life. So the first number will be the bigger one. In this case, we're told that the distance between two towns on the map is 7.6. Determine the actual distance. So really, we know that this is our scale, and that's equal to 7.6 centimeters to something. And that something is going to be in centimeters. Notice how this scale has no units in it. That's so that on a map, you could measure it with a ruler in centimeters. 1 centimeter would be 4 million centimeters. 1 inch would be 4 million inches. You don't even need that. You could take, say you have a piece of wood and you look at the thickness of that, and then you could actually say, well, it's 4 million thicknesses. That's kind of a pain, right? But it's all in a ratio. So without units, they are the same units, whatever it is. So that's why here, if I'm measuring it to be 7.6, then my answer is going to be in centimeters as well. Okay, and then I will want to convert. But the first part is in centimeters. So take a look. What do we multiply here to get 7.6? We multiply by 7.6. So same thing there. So that's going to be a big number. That's good. Yep. I'll put it in red. Okay. That's how many centimeters. So that's the first question. And then in kilometers. So you can do that conversion from centimeters to kilometers all at once. You divide by 100,000. Or maybe you don't have that sort of memorized in your head. So then you would go, okay, let me convert it to meters first by dividing by 100, right? And then once I have it in meters, I would divide by 1,000, which is the same as 100,000. Okay, so here kind of depends on how you think about it. I'm just going to, so here, so if you wanted to do to 1 meter, is at that 100 centimeters, and then 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So you can do your unit analysis. The centimeters divide out, the meters divide out, and you're left with dividing by 100,000. So 304 kilometers. Okay. All right, so turn over the page to look at imperial measurements.
Well, we use the metric system. I know, but we usually use the metric system.
Yeah, unless you're building things, it's still an imperial. And as I mentioned, if you go to their grocery store, it's both, right? How do you say your height?
5 foot 9
inches. So that's imperial. So
Yeah, nobody ever measures like 6 foot 30.
Don't too long.
You don't think a 176 centimeters?
No, I say 6.
I don't think
Okay, so here is just so you can see the difference between. We'll talk a little bit more. This is a meter stick from the beginning to the end is 1 meter, but on the other side it has imperial, and so it goes 1 to 36 inches here, which that part is a yard. Guys at the back. So 1 yard is smaller than a meter. Okay, so just be aware of that, and we'll talk about the conversions between those tomorrow. Who can tell me how many inches in 1 foot? Without shouting it out. 12, thank you. How many feet in 1 yard? Just kind of gave it away. Will at the back. 3, yeah. Okay, and so back many years ago, called the imperial system because they named measurements after kings. So a foot is the length of a king's foot. Okay, that's how. Then an inch was the width of, or usually the height of the king's thumb. Okay, and so then they had to generalize it. Obviously, every king would be slightly different, so they made a standard measurement, and that's been the same ever since, right? That's where the imperial name comes for it. Okay, so our official measurement is the System International, as I said, metric. Guys, abbreviated to SI. It's important that we have an understanding of the imperial system. Some countries, including the US, continue to use the imperial system, and we obviously in Canada, that's our neighboring country. So there's a lot of stuff that we import and export that has to be in both. Okay, so basic unit of measurements, we've just gone through this. 1 foot is 12 inches. 1 yard is 3 feet.
And 1 mile is 1,750. Yes.
You don't have to memorize that. That's on your formula sheet. Okay? So, what unit of measurement in the imperial system is smaller than the inch? Anyone know?
Centimeters.
That's not imperial. Yes, but if you look at a ruler for imperial, it's kind of interesting. It doesn't divide it into tenths. It divides it into, in this case, 8 parts. So then on maybe a ruler that you use in class, those of you that have one, 16ths. Okay, and then obviously it has to be a little bit more accurate than not just the rulers we use every day. So it actually, different from metric. Metric will use tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Imperial, there isn't another unit smaller than the inch. We use fractions of an inch. Okay, so half, 1/4, 1/8, halves, quarters, eighths, and 16ths are the most common. Okay. Okay, so we'll do some conversions here. Convert the following: 3 yards to feet. Well, we said that 1 yard was 3 feet. So if we have 3 yards, we're going to multiply by 3 feet in 1 yard. Okay, so we're multiplying there, not dividing. Because you can see if you use unit analysis, then we have to divide out the units of yards. And this has to be equal to each other, equal to 1 basically. Okay, so that's going to give us 9 feet. 3 yards to inches, well, I'm just going to continue here because I've got my yards to feet. And so now I know there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Okay, so now I can divide out the feet there, and 9 times 12 is 108 inches. Okay, so with, you guys talk about your height in imperial, so I'm 5'3". Okay, so that means 5 feet inches. I don't say I'm 5.33333 feet tall. We usually say it in feet and inches. So we're actually using two different measurements, still within the same metric, imperial system, but two different measurements. So here, converting this, Miss Labardius is 67 inches tall. Convert it to feet and inches. So we know, so this is inches. We know there are 12 inches in a foot. Okay, so when we divide that by 12, you can do it in your calculator if you like, okay? Or when you, so if you do it in your calculator, you get a decimal. There's the math frac if you need to do that. But really, we're thinking about, so if you show it as 67 over 12, show that as a mixed number. So back to elementary school, okay? Converting. I haven't seen a formula. So here, 12 goes into 60 5 times, okay, with a remainder of 7. So 67 over 12 as a mixed number is 5 and 7/12. Well, that means that she is 5 feet 7 inches tall, right? Because there are 12 inches in a foot, and she's 7 out of those 12 inches. In your calculator, let me just see, I'm going to get my calculator out here. Sorry, I have so many emails open. So I'll show you a fast way in your calculator to do this. Once it opens, I'm slow. Okay, so 67 divided by 12. So that's 5 full feet. If you subtract 5 from that, that's the decimal of another foot. You know there is 12 inches in a foot, so multiply by 12, and then you get the 7 inches. And you don't have to do a whole lot of thinking. Okay, so that's a way to use your calculator for that one if you need to. Okay, next one, inches to yards, feet, and inches. So same process, but now we have 102 inches. Okay, so we know that there's 12 inches in a foot. Okay. And then, okay, so when I do that conversion, 102 divided by 12 is 8.5 feet. Okay, so to me, then I'm going to go, okay, well, I've got 2 full yards, right? That's 2 yards is 6 feet. So 2 yards and 2.5 feet. This is way easier than doing it back to inches. So 2 yards plus 2 feet, and then 0.5 of a foot. 0.5 times 12 is 6 inches. Yes, that's what I just said.
Wait, what's that last thing? 2 yards plus 2 feet.
Okay, so my recommendation there, I erased what I was doing, converting it all the way to inches, and I just did it in steps. So I went from inches to feet. I know I have 8.5 feet. Each yard is 3 feet. So I have 2 full yards. The remainder, after dividing by 6, or dividing by 3 feet in the yard, is 2.5. That's my remainder. And so that remainder is feet. So obviously I have 2 full feet. And 1/2 foot is the same as 6 inches. So that's how I think that they did it a little bit differently when I was comparing my notes to what you look at in D2L. Okay. All right, so next one is a perimeter question. Sam wanted to put wood trim around 4 windows. Each window is 40 inches long and 30 inches tall. How many inches of trim is needed? So remember, for a perimeter of a rectangle, okay, it's 2 length plus 2 width. Separate, 4 separate windows. So that for each window, it's 140. So that's 4, that's 560 inches. Okay, do this. Instead of sitting there laughing. Yeah, you're writing. You're not doing anything. Okay, so convert to feet and inches. So remember, there's 12 inches in a foot. So,
560 divided by 12.
right. And again, don't keep it as a decimal. You can check with your calculator. But how many times? So really, that's 560 over 12. So it goes in. You can use your calculator if you need to. 46 times, with a remainder. Of 8. Okay, so therefore it is, don't reduce that fraction because that's telling you how many inches. So that's going to be 46 feet, 8 inches. Okay, so wood trim is sold by the foot and costs $1.79 a foot. Determine the cost of the wood trim. So it's usually sold by the entire foot, not a decimal part of it. So I'm not just going to take 46 and 8/12 and multiply by the price. Okay, I'm going to round up. Because you're not going to be able to go to the store and say, can I have 46 feet and 8 inches? Sometimes at Home Depot, they will actually cut things for you a little bit to your liking, but usually it's sold by the foot. So let's round up. You don't want to round down because then you'll be short on material. Even if this was 46 feet and 1 inch, you're not going to buy just 46 feet because you're going to have a gap. It's better to have a little bit more so that you have some left over. So I'm going to take 47 and multiply by $1.79. We're not accounting for the tax. Okay. You guys just on your phones? Are you going to do some work or what? So a map has a scale of 1 to 3,500,000. Distance on the map between two cities is now in inches, not centimeters. Determine the actual distance rounded to the nearest mile. So now we're allowed to round. Okay, so we're not doing miles plus yards plus feet. You need to go for a walk. So here, when I do this one, 1 to 3,500,000 is equal to 4.5 inches to something inches. Okay, so again, we're going to multiply by 4.5. So real or actual distance equals 3,500,000 times 4.5. Okay, so then we're going to take that, multiply by 12 inches in a foot, multiply by 3 feet in a yard, and then multiply by, that's 1,760 yards in a mile. So really you're dividing by all of those. So if it's all in your calculator, then divide by 12, divide by 3, divide by 1,000. And it says round to the nearest mile, so 249 miles. Notice the difference in units. So MI is miles, M is in meters. So if you don't understand that on a test, you're going to get it wrong, right? There's a difference between MI and M. So know the difference. MI is miles. Meters have no I's in it. Okay? And just on a personal note, if you get your license and you're driving in the United States, okay, the speed limit there looks really slow, right? So it'll be like, say, 45. They don't have units on it. It'll just say 45. That means miles per hour. You're going 45 on a highway. That's almost like going here. You're going 45 kilometers per hour on a highway. Here, you're going to get into an accident for going too slow. So be careful when you're driving in the United States.
Does that happen to you?
No, it hasn't happened to me because I know where I'm driving, but I'm also older than you. So, okay, so that's